Hi everyone, it's Jessie and Chelsea from Yoga. Thank you for joining us today for this tutorial on common mistakes in plank, Chaturanga, Updog or Cobra, and Downward Dog. Grab a mat and we'll get started. Starting on hands and knees, tabletop pose. Wrists underneath the shoulders, knees hip distance apart. Let's take a moment, mobilize the spine. Inhale, pick the chin up towards the ceiling. Low back falls, tip up the tailbone. Exhale, round the spine, tuck the chin, press weight into the palms. 2 more rounds. Inhale, lift, anterior stretch, open up the whole front side body. Exhale, round, posterior stretch, open up the back side body. Final round, inhales are our upward expanding motions, find length, lift the chin. Exhales, downward contracting motion, navel pulls in. Inhale, return back to a neutral spine. Continue to press the ground away. Puff up the space in between the shoulder blades. So we want the sensation of a cat back. Maintain that as you step the feet one at a time back to a plank pose. Shoulders stacked over wrists, energetically pressing through the heels. Head is an extension of the cervical spine, so keeping it in one straight line. That means the drishti, the gaze, is slightly beyond the short edge of the mat. Work to squeeze the inner thighs. The shoulders and the hips are in a line. This is a great example of our plank pose. Common misconceptions that we see in plank are saggy hips. This causes a lot of compression in the low back and becomes a hybrid between plank and your back bend. So to reconcile this, Chelsea, press back up. Let's lower down onto the knees. Let's add this in as an extra pillar of stability. Really work to press the ground away. Your hips and your shoulders are still in one straight line. Bandhas are engaged. Inhale as you lift the knees off of the mat. Alternatively, in plank, we see hips too high. So this becomes a hybrid between plank and downward facing dog. Here we have a line so the shoulders are not stacked above the wrists. So Chelsea, bring the shoulders forward. Over top the wrists will help lower the hips. Alternatively, again, you can drop the knees to create that extra pillar of stability, working the strength in the upper body. Hook the toes on the mat. Inhale, press back up to your plank pose. The third thing that we see in plank is arms out too wide. So the shoulders, once again, are no longer stacked over the wrists. And Chelsea's doing a lot of work here to keep stable. Let's bring the hands directly underneath the shoulders, drawing everything in towards the midline. Continue to energetically press through the heels. Squeeze the inner thighs. Puff up the space in between the shoulder blades. Find that cat back. You should be shaking here. Give it one more big inhale. Exhale, drop down onto the knees. Take a quick child's pose. Extend the arms out in front of you. Inhale, rise, hands and knees, tabletop pose. Actively press the ground away. Exhale, one at a time, step the feet back. Inhale as you find plank. We'll now talk about the common misconceptions that we see in Chaturanga Dandasana. So first, I'll have Chelsea lower, bend the elbows, lower the chest halfway, elbows pin in. Looking at her lines, her shoulder and her elbows are in one straight line. She has a beautiful 90-degree bend in the elbow. Shoulders are in line with the hips. She's energetically pressing through the heels. Her head is an extension of the spine and her drishti, her gaze, is beyond the short edge of the mat. Inhale, slowly press back up, top of push-up. Exhale. Take a moment, breathe. Inhale, rise, hands and knees, tabletop pose. Exhale, one at a time, step the feet back. Inhale, we rise into plank. So the first thing that we see is flopping all the way down onto the belly. Woo, flop. All right, so ways to avoid this. Inhale, press back up, find top of push-up. Exhale, as you lower all the way down onto the belly, try to keep the elbows pinned in rather than flopping all the way down. Gorgeous. That is a beautiful and valid option as you lower from plank to Chaturanga. Inhale, press back up, top of push-up. The second thing that we see in Chaturanga is elbows that splay out to the side. So they are abducting rather than adducting in towards the midline. So the elbows were no longer in line with the shoulders. So draw them in, pin them in. Yes, that is the shape that we should have all the way down. Inhale, tuck the toes, press up, top of push-up. Exhale, this time keep the elbows pinned in. Elbows adduct in towards the midline, shoulders and elbow in line. Gorgeous. When you're ready, inhale, press back up. The third thing that we see incorrectly in Chaturanga Dandasana is tipping the shoulder down and lifting the booty up. So this puts a lot of unnecessary pressure into the shoulder joint and can cause rotator cuff issues. Alternatively, with the booty up in the air, you are causing unnecessary compression in the lumbar spine. Let's inhale, press up, show the difference one more time. So really press the ground away. Exhale, bend the elbows, lower the chest halfway. So see how this time the hips remained in line with the shoulders. Lower all the way down, give it a little shake out. Bring the hands underneath the shoulders now, Chelsea. We'll show Cobra. Common misconceptions that we see in Cobra. So bringing the hands underneath the shoulders, elbows once again stay in towards the midline. Tops of the feet stay glued into the mat, and you're using the inner hip adductors to draw the heels in towards the midline. Take a big inhale, press the ground away, open through the heart, the chest. So in Cobra, the hips are still down on the mat. You have a bend in your elbows. The legs, the posterior chain are completely active. Take one more big inhale. Exhale, softly lower back down. So instead of these long lines of energy, we see complete laziness in the lower body where the heels splay out to the side. So once again, bring the hands underneath the shoulders, press the ground away, inhale as you come up into your Cobra. This probably feels really yucky on the low back with absolutely nothing engaged in the lower half. So come back down, let's show the difference once again. Squeeze the inner thighs, draw the heels in towards the midline, plant the hands into the mat. Inhale, rise up. Gorgeous. Exhale, lower down. So just as we saw in Chaturanga Dandasana, oftentimes in our Cobra, we see elbows splayed out to the side. So instead of the elbows and the shoulders being in line, yes, gorgeous. Inhale, rise up. That probably doesn't feel too good on the shoulder joint. Exhale, lower back down. Let's show the difference. Pin the elbows in, really actively draw them in towards the midline. Feet engaged, press the tops of the feet into the mat. Inhale, rise up. Gorgeous. Exhale, lower down. So this could be one variation of a back bend that you're taking in your Vinyasa sequence. Alternatively, you might be taking Updog. So plant the hands underneath the shoulders. Inhale, rise up. This time the quads are engaged and everything lifts off of the mat. So we see the same things here where instead of the heels drawing in towards the midline, they instead splay out to the side. Once again, this probably feels really yucky in the low back, so let's bring it back, integral, yes, see the difference, everything is nice and lifted. And once again, we see elbows that splay out to the side, or bent elbows, which then completely loses the integrity in the upper body. We also see weird Pez heady stuff in our Updog, where the throat is completely open. Instead, you want to keep the spine in extension. So once again, the cervical spine is just a continuation of this beautiful long line of energy that we're working to create. Take a big inhale here, Chelsea. Exhale, send the hips up and back, contract, find your downward facing dog. Let's talk about all of the weird stuff that we see in downward facing dog. So once again, we see that hybrid between down dog and plank, where the down dog is a little bit too wide. So walk the hands back towards the feet. We're really looking for this beautiful V shape where your hips are the apex. You want even weight distribution between the hands and the feet, between the right and left halves of the body. You want to lengthen from the tip of the tailbone down through the cervical vertebra, the nape of the neck. Oftentimes we see a hyperextension of the spine. Yes, where the chest is draping a little bit too far towards the thighs. So once again, we want this beautiful V shape where everything is in line. The final thing that we see in downward facing dog is a wider forward fold. So once again, this is going to be a little bit too short. Put a bend into the knees. Yeah, so instead of this, we want to walk the hands away from the feet. Find a good distance so you can find that even weight distribution. You can always put a bend into the knees to give some release to the hamstrings. This can also assist in helping to find extension in the spine. One more big inhale. Exhale, lower down onto the knees. Press back, find your child's pose.